It's 2 years since the state government announced new education reforms to empower specially selected public schools, giving them greater control over their own finances and management. The rollout has been swift and far-reaching, with half of WA's primary and secondary students now studying at what's become known as independent public schools. While feedback from principals has been largely positive, there's been no formal review or examination of the program, meaning there's really no independent evidence that these independent public schools are significantly improving the quality of public education in WA. It's a measure designed to halt the drift of students into private schools, but some researchers say it's creating a two-tiered system within the public education system itself. Charlotte Hamlin reports.
Two schools, same day. It's claimed one represents the future of WA's education system and is an attempt to close the gap between public and private schools. If that's right, does that mean the other will be left behind? Both schools pride themselves on their education standards. One says its greatest asset is autonomy. The Independent Public Schools, or IPS scheme, has been running in WA for 2.5 years. Schools apply for independent status, and if they're successful, they're given greater control over their programs, budgets, and the hiring and firing of staff. This week, the state government announced 48 schools would join the 207 already operating under the program.
You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there.
North Fremantle Primary School applied to become independent in that round, but despite being a small school with a very manageable 120 students, located in an affluent area with plenty of community support, it was knocked back and is yet to find out why.
We went through a process of educating the parents about what it was, ran some workshops, had some principals from independent schools come and speak to our parents. Again, we surveyed them, and of the 80% of parents who responded, over 95 were very keen for us to go for independent public school status. Unfortunately, we didn't get it this time, but we'll get our feedback soon and have a go again.
Over the past 30 years, there's been a steady increase in the number of parents opting to send their children to private schools rather than public. Now this year, for the first time, there's evidence that trend has reversed. The government attributes the slowing of the drift away from state education to the IPS scheme, and principals who've been lucky enough to be accepted into the program are singing its praises.
The whole package of IPS was just really a really attractive way of the school being able to exercise empowerment, still have the total protection of our public system, yet be able to be flexible in the way that we operate this school.
Roseworth Primary School here in Girraween was one of the first to successfully apply for independent status when the scheme was first launched in 2010. It's meant the school's been able to change its staffing model and introduce new programs, but like all of the 255 schools now signed up to the scheme, it's yet to receive any feedback about whether its newfound independence is improving educational outcomes. While the Education Department is in the process of assessing the first batch of 34 independent schools, some argue it's been irresponsible to roll out a program to a third of WA schools that isn't yet proven. Curtin University Professor Scott Fitzgerald co-authored a scathing report into IPS, suggesting greater autonomy for some and not others would create a two-tiered system.
The IPS scheme poses concerns in terms of equity, a commitment to equity across the whole public education system. For some, that doesn't appear to be a concern, but I think as parents and people committed to equity in the public education system, we should be concerned about a policy that moves away from that.
He's had a year since his report was released to reflect on his findings and observe any further impact the scheme has had on the public school sector. But he hasn't changed his tune.
I think where we're yet to be proven wrong, actually. There hasn't been any evidence collected to date about the impact of this program, which is a concern. I'm quite surprised that a scheme that the government represents as being revolutionary wasn't assessed from the beginning. and that we're so far into a rollout of an IPS program before the government is expecting any sort of independent review of the whole process.
Newly appointed Education Minister Peter Collier has inherited the scheme from Liz Constable, but he's comfortable with the speed it's been implemented, calling it revolutionary. You call it this, hugely significant reform, but what sort of proof do you have that it's doing anything to improve educational outcomes at this point?
Look, at this stage, the jury's still out. A lot of it's anecdotal. There have been some preliminary reviews that have been positive. But in tune with that as well, we also have a significant increase in terms of enrolments or students that are going to independent public schools than ever before.
An independent assessment of the program being undertaken by the University of Melbourne is due to be released mid-next year. That'll be the first time the government gets any solid feedback about the effect the scheme is having on the system. According to the government, it's not too late to make changes, with the minister expected to announce some refining of the program in the coming weeks.
It can't be the gospel according to Pete or the gospel according to the government. Our fundamental aim with the independent school structure is to provide the best education environment for our students. It is not to go along a bland philosophical bent. It is to ensure that our education system best caters for our students. That is the fundamental aim of what we're all about. Now, if we find that we do need to refine the system in the future, of course we'll refine it.
But at Roseworth Primary School, straight A's have already been awarded.
For a successful program to operate in a school, it really is for the school to tell you that this is a successful program. I don't need an evaluation to process to tell me that this has been a successful thing for my school, and I've got no doubt that there are improvements in all sorts of areas across the school, in student attendance, in their academic achievement, in the engagement that we have with our school, and in people caring about their local school.
Charlotte Hamlin reporting there.